Okay, all right. Well, I think we can also open the floor for questions. Who has any questions?
Thank you, and thank you for allowing a foreigner into this discussion. I've been living here for quite a while and feel very welcome here, and like you have a choice of where I go. I've been a part of a couple of big revolutions. I'm kind of old, so back when you first moved to America, I left America to bring the internet around the world in the late 90s, and voice over IP, which I think, you know, unlocked free and easy communication, not just for everybody in the world, but also for here. And I was also, after that was Celtel, bringing East African mobile phones out, and then later Kenya Data Networks and Infocom bringing the first fiber optic cables here 9 years ago to Kampala. And I think we can agree that, plus also the investment that MTN and Airtel made to give us 4G, has revolutionized a lot of the societal, basically society in Uganda and all over East Africa. So my question is, when and how can blockchain make that kind of societal change to not just the whole world, but domestically? I think you guys are doing a lot of great things, but the big issue to me is opening up the markets in all of Africa, but even just thinking about East Africa. We don't have easy trade with Kenya and Tanzania, not to mention DRC and South Sudan. You can't do cross-border banking very easily, and these things are protected. Borders are protected, banks are protected. Blockchain has the technology answer, but how can it make that leap into opening things up?
I would try to answer that question, unless you can have a better answer than me afterwards, Kwame. The good thing with the, to have that, to operate with UPMB, Uganda Process Medical Bureau, is that they have over 20 million patients. We talked about the people who are unbanked or banked. If I go to the rural areas, definitely, there's a challenge, for instance, where over 83% of children under 5 years do not have a birth certificate. And if you don't have a birth certificate, you cannot get an ID. Or no longer, not even a passport to go to Kenya or whatever to do trade. So in that process, we have said to them, everybody's going to get a digital ID, for one, that is connected to their birth certificate. And of course, if the child is 6, 7, 8, whatever, they still don't have that birth certificate. So we need to just take all the patient data and make sure that everybody is digitalized. And we work all the way actually down to 2G, because if you're in the Rwenzori Mountains, even this phone becomes a dumb phone. So we have programmed all the way down to first digital everybody, and then like what European, I'm not allowed to liberty to say everything that they're doing, but one of those things is to actually challenge the established banking system in this country among their congregation. It means that if you're Protestant and next time you're in church, sometime over Christmas, there will be an infomercial where you're passing the collecting thing, and then they say, remember to register. So that's those challenges you're saying, but we're using, let's say, the medical side, because everybody at one point has to go to a doctor, and then we're going to catch you there, and then digitalize you, and then see how that goes for payment systems, how they're going to pay. Instead of using shillings, they will get their unique token to do that financial inclusion within UPMB, and then hopefully also the Catholic Church is also joining the same system. And that means if the numbers are correct, as I'm a stickler for numbers, because people think that there's only 34 million people in this country. It is not. We're probably closer to 60. Because the only 34 million we know about, those are the ones who has a birth certificate. So, yeah.
That's a new revelation, eh? This is serious. I like to, on your point, it's, with hindsight, now we can look back and say, the mobile money revolution had this impact, thanks to the work that you were speaking about that was done in the early years. But if we were to look at ourselves in the continuum of time, if we were to look at ourselves recognizing where we have come from and where we are going, it is amazing the opportunity that lies ahead. So on this point of cross-border payments, that's, I mean, crypto is almost a panacea. It really just fundamentally solves this problem. I can speak about some of the ongoing efforts that I've heard about or that I know about in this regard. I know a group of people that are trying to speak with the trade, like trademark, these trading bodies in the region to see how crypto can be utilized. I met a group from Kenya that's doing exactly that. I know that in Rwanda there was the Continental Free Trade Area meeting that was held, with many leaders on the continent to sign this Continental Free Trade Area agreement. And among the issues that were being discussed was, a currency for the continent. And as we all know, a currency for the continent would most likely be something in this crypto type of space, but pegged to some form of asset. And the asset that was being discussed, I think, was either African resources or something at the time. And then there was a BRICS summit in South Africa. I think this was around July, where the head of state of Uganda attended, and there were many other leaders. And again, the head of the president of South Africa was making the same point that as Africa we need a common currency that we can use that is not the US dollar, but is something that we can develop here and is pegged to our assets. So everyone is speaking about this same thing. And remember that these are leaders who are speaking about it at a continental level. So I think that, it hasn't yet happened, but the conversation is there amongst leaders. And if we look at ourselves and our efforts in the continuum of time, in the larger scheme of, beyond ourselves, I think that it will even be just beyond, cross-border payments, Uganda, Kenya, or Uganda, Congo, this problem that you've talked about. But it will be, at a much larger continental level with a currency, a token, a coin, something that is pegged to an African natural resource, or, a gold or something like that. That is sort of the way I see things.
Well, from my perspective, there are a couple of problems that are going to be solved using a couple of different elements, right? And so in trade, you definitely need trust, right? And blockchain is digitized trust. So there are going to be a number of elements within the value chain that will be blockchainized, right? For example, tracing of produce or whatever product from source to final destination will be put on the blockchain, and as well as very many other elements, right? Because blockchains do auditing and accounting by themselves, right? It's a ledger. And so that will solve that problem. And that is something that people can foresee at this moment in time, because there are already a number of projects being done within that space. However, I always like to tell people that we're still very early on in the space, right? Blockchain is probably where the internet was in 98 or 97 right now, right? And so there's still a bit of infrastructure that needs to be developed in order for us to unlock the true potential of what crypto can do and what blockchain can do. So everyone in the room, clap for yourselves. You're part of the early adopters, And so as much as we can sit here and make predictions, we really can't tell what is going to be there 3, 4, 5 years down the road, because it will be like predicting Facebook back in 98. No one could even think that something like that was possible. However, we will come up with something will be developed that will revolutionize cross-border payments, and we definitely believe it's going to be a crypto of sorts.
There's one big difference between 1998 and now. In those days, we were the people who had all the power were the phone companies. We made them rich on the internet. Who's getting rich of the power people, the banks and the governments? Who's getting rich off of blockchain now in order to allow it to flourish like the internet did?
The exchanges. Because that's one thing from traveling the world and just even being involved in the space. The biggest cash cow in crypto and blockchain are the cryptocurrency exchanges. Because anybody who has to get crypto has to go through an exchange. All right.
Just gonna. It's very interesting what you. How many people are in trade here? In somehow commodities trading, whatever, cotton, coffee, whatever. Yeah. Because it's very interesting. We have the same discussion now in Norway, and Norway is one of the richest countries in the world, and the second largest industry we have in Norway, if you take away oil and gas, is fish. And where they trade fish is you're in the dark ages, because they still use fax machines to sell millions of dollars to South Korea, if it's salmon or it's cod, whatever it is, or they actually call each other. And I go, really? How are you going to trade with somebody, whatever? So I think, so there are people also there exploring how can we use cross-border payments using crypto somehow or blockchain somehow. So the problem or challenge Uganda has, Norway also has it, especially because some of these companies also trade with Africa. And it's like, they are like, especially Nigeria for dry fish, or West Africa. But they're like, we're a little bit scared, because do we trust the other counterpart or not? And I think that for Uganda, for anybody who is in trading, one thing people are speculating, making all these different currencies, but if somebody can also spend time to making utility coins, then Uganda will be smack in the middle, because then you will not be surprised that you find Norwegian companies coming here to say, oh, can we use your system, because our system is, we are tired of being on the phone or using drums, whatever, to when you're selling things around the world.
I'll just quickly add on to that. So me being here for the first time in over 20 years, I don't really know much about the regulation space and the trading space here in East Africa or Africa in general. But I know in general, just from other parts of the world, I think free trade and free market has to, I mean, those have to be open either side for innovation and everything to grow. Okay. Next question. Who has, anybody with a question? Where's the mic? Okay, yeah, please help pass the mic. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, so Ian, you talked about how cryptocurrency and the crypto space presents a uniquely lucrative opportunity for investment over the next 5 or 10 years. And I know how it's easy to become a trader in the crypto space, but how does one become a smart and informed trader in the crypto space to take advantage of that opportunity?
So how to become a smart and informed trader? Very good question. Now, I mean, personally, I'm not a trader. I'm actually an investor. All right, so for me, I think when I think trader, I think more of short term, like day trader, swing trader. I've tried that in the past, and to me, it's not for me. And I feel like it's more stressful, especially in crypto. And I find having a longer term outlook, and that could be 6 months to a year, 2 years, 5, 10 years, to be a more healthy, less stressful outlook. Right? That's why I like ICOs so much. You basically get in at the ground floor, and you take profits on the way up, and you basically just kind of this long-term outlook. It's more like venture capital, while trading to me is more like hedge funds, right? Now, how do you become a successful trader? I mean, or investor. That's $1 million question, right? I would say the way I personally have gained success from investing is just being hungry, like being focused. Like when I was working at IBM, I would basically work from 9 to 5 doing IBM work, then 6 to midnight doing crypto, every single day. And like it was pure madness, like obsessed with it, right? And we had a Telegram group with our friends, and we'd go through probably like if you stepped away from that Telegram group, you'd come back in a day with 200 messages. And that was just us talking about stuff in crypto happening that day. So I would say have a mastermind group, like have like-minded individuals going after the same goal, and talk with them on a daily basis, right? So the way we did that is we had friends from ours in DC, and we basically created a Telegram group, and we just share and conversate around crypto every single day. Then as we went to conferences and met people we liked and wanted to connect with, we would add them to that group, right? So at first it was just 5-10 guys in the DC area, me, Ugo, and some other people. Ugo's over there in the back, my business partner. And now that group is over 200 people. And now it's basically consists of the who's who of crypto. All right? Who's heard of CMT? Or crypto? So CMT has now kind of gotten infamous. But at one point, right, it went from just being a bunch of people in DC who are into crypto to having people like Brock Pierce in the group, Vitalik Buterin was in the group at one point, Rand Neuner from CNBC is in the group. Basically, anybody you want to connect with, that for us, that became as a way to kind of keep in touch, right? To kind of have them in our group, to really just kind of touch base with them here and there, right? So now it's turned into a global network, right? So kind of like us, like everywhere we go to, we basically find what I call crypto family, right? A host, a point of contact, contacts you have around the world as you're traveling. You want to make sure you stay in touch with them, right? So not just getting a business card. Like I don't do business cards because they never work. Most people get business cards and they don't call anybody, right? When somebody gives me a business card, unfortunately, I don't really, because I get so many and I'm so busy, it's hard to keep touch with somebody, right? So for me, the best way really is Telegram, right? Telegram, WhatsApp, whatever, right? I would say just create that group of like-minded people you want to connect with, and I think the people you surround yourself around will really boost you up, right? So if you want to be a better trader, find people you think are good traders and create a group around them, right? Like a real intimate group of just people going after the same goal. And I think that will really boost you up, right? Because they say that you never want to be the smartest person in the room, right? So when you're looking for people to connect with, and find people who are better than you, right? Hope that helps. Wow.
Yeah, I can add on that on trading. I've been doing trading for quite some time now, but one thing you want to know about trading is that you always need like a second opinion. Like you're going to look at the charts and you look, okay, this is going down or this is going up or this is stable, but someone will just pull another chart and you're like, okay, I needed this. So what Ian has said, you need to have that group, maybe 3, 4, 5 people, you sit in the same office. It's really good. And also you invest in knowledge. Like you have to keep learning more. Like some guys say, me I use this strategy, me I use it, but every strategy works and it works at different times. So knowledge and the people.
Is there a Telegram group for crypto traders?
Yeah, we have actually a WhatsApp group. Actually,
WhatsApp
Steve did create a Telegram group back, I think, in June last year.
Yeah, we have a Telegram group that is kind of like East African.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think because we're in the bear market, it hasn't been so active.
Yeah, but I remember the time it was in the bull run. Everyone was very happy on that group. People were coming up with software, investing in trading bots and all that. I no longer see them, but we do have those groups.
Yeah. So the reason I'm raising this point is whoever is a trader and is not plugged in, this is the opportunity. Make sure to get involved with the Telegram group there.
Okay, in the back.
Good evening. My question is, when you see the Satoshi Nakamoto white paper, the idea was to be independent from government and create a decentralized system. But now you are talking about working with the government, being legalized. So how are we going to join this revolution? Is this revolution going to be out of government, or we are going to go in with the government? Because now the idea was to be independent. Like when you see the Repo CEO, because I like Repo, but I invested small in Repo, but the Repo say they want to join the bank system. The revolution will be inside the bank financial system, but for us, we want to be out of bank system. So how are you going to why this?
Very good question. Now, I'll be very honest. I think blockchain and crypto has been trying to decentralize and give power back to the people who didn't have the power, right? Whether it's the unbanked or the people who are not, who lack the access, who don't have a seat at the table, right? Whether it's banks, whether it's governments that have been keeping them out. Blockchain definitely has that potential to help solve that, but I don't think it's realistic, honestly, to think that there will never be regulation. I think we have to coexist with both, right? We can't just have full anarchy, basically, right? I mean, because, for example, I'll tell you a story, right? For those who don't know, right, I got hacked in April, cryptocurrency, right? I lost over $2.5 million. I was a very big proponent for decentralization, whatever. But when I got hacked, I was like, I want somebody I can call. Like, you know, like a police, customer service, right? Like, if something is truly decentralized, there isn't really that central person to call, right? So everybody is for decentralization until an issue comes up where you want to call somebody, you want to scream at somebody, right? Whether it's a bank or customer service or somebody, right? So I think the two have to coexist. I don't think, right? Because example, OneCoin, right? We need regulation to stop things like that. If it's just an open market, and you say, oh, this is decentralization, you know, bank, police, stay out, that can't fly, right? That's what, because I feel like for the space to really mature and go mainstream and get mainstream adoption, we have to have those securities in place to make the average person who's not a techie comfortable investing their hard-earned money in this space, right? Like, for example, I don't want my mom, my dad, or my brothers or friends who are not crypto savvy to put their hard-earned money into this and not have any protection and say, oh, this is decentralized, you know, like, tough luck. You know?
Okay.
Just to add to him, even though many of you guys now are still talking, normally when I talk about blockchain, I always say, right-click in your brain and delete Bitcoin, because I want to talk about it underlying technology. So for the health side, with the hospitals and clinics, etc., you cannot have a system where, yes, I was saying everybody in this room will now be 100% control of their own medical journal. That's the easiest part to talk about. But you have to, if something goes wrong, you need a phone. You need to be able to call somebody and say, oh, I cannot access my my medical journal or whatever. Because then you're back to square one. You get me? Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Patrick. I'm a journalist. And I want to thank Kwame and the gentleman from Chipia. Right after the blockchain conference, I was able to touch base with some of the speakers. And I do a radio show on Prime Radio on Sunday. It's a music show, but I got so interested and I gave these people a full time of 2 hours. And they linked me to other people who were away from the country, from Uganda, actually from Africa. So we're able to do phone-in interviews on other shows that, you know, people will call in from the States and do these interviews. Then I think Chipia kept on bringing people, and then I gave them slots. And these were absolutely very, very, as in free. My concern is, in Uganda, it's easy to get the wrong thing or to buy fake or talk about Ponzi schemes. They are so popular. And so I don't know whether it's whether the people with the authentic thing just don't have the aggressiveness of selling it. If you look at media in Uganda, it's still commercial. If you look in the room here, we've made calls from a number of the organizers, made calls for media people to be here, but you have only one television, which is NBS. And that is after calls that we made, and then I got a call, and please make these people come, and they are here. And Uganda has more than 300 radio stations, plus a number of TV stations. So it's so unfortunate that the biggest population, people listen to radio and watch TV. I did some research and found out that there's a blockchain radio. Unfortunately, you know, the issues we have with social media, taxes and all this, and the cost of internet in Uganda. I think the tax has been waived, but the cost of internet, streaming videos, I appreciate people like the presenter tonight. A number of you that have done videos, I think the association is also pushing up videos, but watching videos on the cost of internet in Uganda. So I think the international community has tried so much to produce content that educate people. So I'll go down with this proposal. I've already walked into Kwame's office. I've not come back because I've been busy, but I'll come back. Uganda has got more than 300 radio stations, and my proposal was we can have more than 1 hour on these radio stations. Either the community can contribute into a corporate fund, which can finance these radio stations, or we can attack the main media houses and buy in some platforms which we can use. And then going down, the idea was to have a blockchain platform on these media houses, which all the authentic guys can share. But who is willing to stand in? Is it the association to sponsor it? Is it the members to? I mean, because it makes sense when the community is bigger, and it makes sense when people understand what they are buying. I had to talk about Uganda and the hospital and the solutions going down there. Those people are not going to buy because they understand tech solutions, but once it makes sense in their everyday life. That's why mobile money was able to break through. They don't understand how the USSD codes work and the internet is down for the service, but once they see that figure received or sent, that's it. And that's so beautiful during this Christmas time. When you send money, received is a great message. So if people could have this cool message, and this blockchain is coming within Christmas, the solution of getting money, the whole money that you have been sent from away from Uganda, from friends and family away from home, and you're receiving this money, it's not taxed. It's just, I mean, this thing will just go all over. I just can't wait for that. Thank you.
I will just support you in the sense that with the journalism and radio, and I see, as I, again, growing up in Norway, etc., we are probably the most tax savvy when it comes to internet. It's dirt cheap compared to here in Uganda. But one of those solutions might help. I'm not going to now destroy his association, but one of the things we have discussed in Uganda Process Medical Bureau is that on any given Sunday, because what I've realized in Uganda, you're never late to church, so you're there. If it's 7 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the evening, you are there. Secondly, if you're going to catch a flight, because you cannot hold that flight back. So what we have discussed to how do we implement blockchain or our medical software is that the minister, the pastor, etc., on any given Sunday, if you're a 7-day Adventist, then it's on a Saturday, that they would have an infomercial to try to educate people, not necessarily the priest or pastor himself, but if you find probably somebody in that community, they can speak to after service. Before you leave here, we want to tell you a couple of things. Because again, if you were saying the 300 radio stations, I know that it's easy if you're in central but if you go up in the mountains, the reception for radio is also bad. So we are just tapping into the churches or the whatever where people congregate. If that can help, and I would like to have that kind of help, because I'm a Ugandan, but I don't speak Lusoga, I don't speak Luganda, I definitely don't speak what they speak in the West. So be my guest, anybody here.
Like the gentleman in the hat eloquently said, this is a revolution. With or without government, it's a revolution, right? And so it's a decentralized revolution, and so it's up to all of us as part of the community to drive the message forward. Personally, I've put out 2 papers explaining what blockchain is, what cryptocurrency is, why it's important, right? And I'm one person, you know. If all of us did that, we all have our own contacts, we all shared that kind of information, you know, it would actually move much quicker, right? And so what the journalist said was important. A majority of the population doesn't have access to internet. I mean, there are 4 million. We have a population of 30 million or 60 million, as he said, shadow population. But there are only about 6 million active smartphones in the country, you know, 30-day, 60-day active. And so there should be a way to reach the rest of the population. And I believe if each and every one of us did our own, right, participated and did our own activity, then the message would move much faster and we'll be able to get this ball rolling much quicker within the community.
I'd just like to comment on this point. Thank you, Sule. You know, we can get guidance from our friends in the media here. We really need guidance in order to have an effective and impactful engagement such that people can understand what these things are. When one of the challenges we have is that this conversation has mainly been amongst a certain small group. And it's largely technical people. Internet was being propagated. People were not talking about, you know, DNS root servers and TCP/IP protocols. Those things that sound abstract to most people. And that's the problem that we're having now. The conversation we have is still very, you know, technical. And those of you who attended the blockchain call, the president saying, you blockchain people, stop calling these things ledgers. These things are called record books. Tell our wananchi what they are called. And he was making a very good point. We must find a way, we must translate this relatively complex stuff that we are involved with into, you know, ordinary language. So Sule has taken an initiative by writing papers. But these papers can be consumed by only a certain population. So where we need the help of our friends in the fourth estate, where we need the help of our friends in the media, is to give us some form of guideline, some form of strategy, some form of way in which we can, you know, over X period of time, make sure that we have an engagement with, you know, TV X, Radio X, newspaper X, and in a simple, understandable way, not in the, you know, the more technical language. And just finally, I think something else that could be of relevance is, since this task force is being coordinated by the Ministry of ICT, and the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, I know, has some available media slots. You can guide us. They have some media slots where they're talking about, you know, programs of national importance and so on. We could leverage some of these opportunities because that is the coordination center. So we can take advantage of both the available free slots plus also some that can be paid for once a well thought through strategy guided by the media is presented to the rest of us. And I'd love to, this is a conversation I'd love to have as well after here, if we can, you know, put our heads together on it.
Okay. My name is Simon Peter. I joined this monster blockchain thing about last year. And I think I have myself to blame for not, I think, for picking the wrong advice. So a friend said you just go on CoinMarketCap and see those cheap coins and put your money there. So put your money there, and you never know. 1 month, 2 months down the road, it could 1,000x. So I placed in quite a number of bets in on some of those useless coins. Now I call them useless coins, and the bull run was very good. I actually had high hopes, but then January, as we go to February, I started asking myself what had I done, because I almost lost the entire money that I'd invested in crypto. But I think what I learned from that, and that's the time when I actually discovered your YouTube channel and the Telegram group. So I started interesting myself to learn as much as possible. Then I learned about hacking the system, how you analyze ICOs, and I started to learn that there is actually much more than just seeing the coins as cheap as they are on CoinMarketCap. But definitely there are other things that we need to look at. My question to you is, I know most of us who are here, probably we don't have that kind of finances to invest and earn as much as possible with ICOs. Possibly we have maybe $100 or $50, but we want to invest in something long term that we believe 5 years, 10 years down the road could give us a huge margin. I want to walk away from here knowing that with your knowledge in data analytics, you could possibly point us towards some 5 coins or 10 coins that we can put our $50, $100 or so, and we know that 5 years down the road, you see. So you can see this is what actually they wanted to ask, but. Yeah, so I think that's what I want to ask.
Very good question. So as I always say, I can't tell you what to invest in, right? Because I can't give you financial advice, but I can share my opinion on what I'm invested in and what I believe in. right? So for me, the projects I'm currently heavily invested in, Bitcoin, right? Actually, no, sorry, Ethereum, right? Because I do ICOs, so I need to have Ether, right? And in long term, I'm bullish on Ethereum just based on they have the biggest developer community out there of any blockchain project, right? It's very, very strong. So long term, 5-10 years, I'm still bullish on Ethereum. For right now, this year, my best investment has been PundiX, and I'm even bullish on them next year as well. All right, they're basically helping take crypto mainstream with point-of-sale devices, and next year they'll be launching a blockchain phone, right? Meaning that the entire phone is on the blockchain, and you can have blockchain dApps on the phone. Then I'm very bullish on a project called Phantasma. Their ticker name is SOUL, S-O-U-L. I'm an investor and advisor to them, right? So I'm definitely biased, right? But I feel like the team is building a lot. They just launched their testnet. They're really trying to focus on the mainstream adoption, right? Because I've seen other blockchains build stuff, but they don't know how to package it up to the non-techies. The Phantasma guys, they get that, right? So for example, on their blockchain, they first began by building a game on their blockchain for people to see the power of their blockchain. But more importantly, for people who don't even care about blockchain, who just like gaming, right? So I'm very bullish on the gaming space long term because I feel like people who will adapt to this technology won't care what's underneath. And I think, if anything, they'll adopt it for recreational use first over anything else, right? So for example, one of the biggest VR games, so VR was a very hot space a few years ago, and the thing that really, in my opinion, really helped put VR out there was a Pokemon game. Did you guys hear about that one? Was it big here in Kampala as well? Not much, right? But pretty much a useless game. But it helps people become aware, right? For example, the most used dApp in blockchain right now is CryptoKitties. Also, pretty much, well, kind of useless, but there's ways to make money by buying the cats and the animals on there and having them rise in value. But it's something that's for recreational use, right? So I think those use cases will be the first ones to really get more adoption and go mainstream, right? So those three projects is what I'm personally vested in, right, long term. Though a few projects outside of those two, let me see if I have anything else. I'm heavily invested in KuCoin, right? It's my biggest holding, right? Because I'm a global ambassador, right? So I definitely, they have to do well, basically, right? Bitcoin, I'm very bullish on Bitcoin. And I think right now the price is coming down, right? So it's more affordable. Speaking of Bitcoin, projects coming out after Bitcoin are RSK, Rootstock. That's a project I'm very, very bullish on. From a technology standpoint, it's amazing. It's bringing smart contract capabilities on Bitcoin. Basically, what Ethereum is doing, all those Ethereum dApps can now run on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is a much more secure, stronger blockchain based on a proof of work. And more importantly, though, they had a private sale a while back, early in the year, when Bitcoin was 20,000, 15,000, 10,000. But then I think when it comes out, or if you're able to get this, at least for me, I'm looking to possibly get this OTC, because it was pegged to a Bitcoin, one Bitcoin, and I think the private sale price was 14,000 Rift tokens per one Bitcoin. But if you bought that when Bitcoin was 10,000, 15,000, then you're able to buy it now at the price of Bitcoin now. Bitcoin is now 4,000. So I think it's really, really undervalued. Then in terms of future projects I'm looking to get into, recently with 100x Advisors, our consulting company, we'll be investing and advising a DEX, a decentralized exchange called Resistance. So the idea is it basically lets you do atomic swaps, basically swap from one blockchain to another. So buy from Bitcoin to Ether, or Ether to Ripple, or Ripple to Cardano, basically jump from one currency to a different currency in a totally different blockchain very quickly as an exchange, as a DEX, right? So that one we're very, very bullish on, and we like it because it's truly decentralized. There's no website. You download a client on your desktop, right? Meaning that there's no site to shut down, right? It's kind of like Napster or BitTorrent, right? And more importantly, their user interface is very, very simple to use. That it's kind of like a Coinbase type interface, very simple to use, right? So that's what I'm personally bullish on. But as I always say, I mean, always do your own research. This is not financial advice. And if you lose any money, don't mention my name. Anybody else want to add?
The blockchain fund for funds, how different is it going to be from that one of Syria?
Okay. A very good question. I think the Syrian one is like $1,000 or more. I'm okay, yeah. So basically $1,000 minus a penny or something like that. The Pundi X phone, I mean, I haven't seen the Syrian one, but Pundi X one, I had a chance to try it out when I was in Malta for the Malta Blockchain Summit, and also had a chance to talk with Zach. So the reasoning behind what they did is their point-of-sale device is basically a dumb phone, because it basically runs Android operating system, but lacks but they take away the features for calling. And they said, why should we take away these features? Why not just make a full-fledged phone? So now that's kind of what they're going towards. They want to make a full-fledged phone that runs Android, but purely on the blockchain. And then to have, because the issue they have is blockchain apps are having issues going onto marketplaces. So I mean onto app stores for Apple and Google, because they aren't very blockchain or crypto friendly. So they said, why can't we just create the whole ecosystem in the same manner how Apple does both hardware and software, right? They said, why don't we just make our own phone with our own blockchain app store, right? And they want to get other blockchain apps on their phone, those apps that may have issues going on to Google or Apple or whatever, or some other non-blockchain friendly company, right? So they want to have their own. They want to basically create a new market so that those people can be on the Pundi X blockchain phone.
Just to add to what Ian has said, can you hear me? There's one more coin I like to call education coin, right? And that is you people or the community really understanding, digging into this market, digging into this technology, understanding why this crypto matters. Like one of the projects is mentioned, Pundi X. Why has he mentioned Pundi X? You know, there are various elements I believe Ian looks for in a project. You know, the community, the developer, the community, the developers who are working on the project, how the project has been structured, you know, how the distribution of the token was distributed, how it was done, you know, all those elements add to why this project, why he believes into the project, and why this project will have a good chance of rising, right? And you can only understand that by actually understanding what cryptocurrencies are and why different cryptocurrencies react in different ways, right? And so by understanding why they react the way they are and why they matter and why they operate the way they do, you'll also begin to realize why Bitcoin is still cheap, why many of the experts, even when Bitcoin was at 12K, said Bitcoin is still cheap, right? Because like the gentleman had mentioned, he went to buy all the cheap coins, right? Ripple is cheap, but Ripple has a circulating supply of hundreds of billions, right? And unless you understand the relationship between price, circulating supply, and every other factor in a coin's ecosystem, you can never really truly understand the value of that coin. And so education, I believe, is the most important investment you can make. When I transitioned from mobile money into blockchain, I took a month of leave. And in that month of leave, I spent 3 weeks, 6 hours a day, watching every video out there, Andres Antonopoulos, reading every book, Ian videos, everything. I consumed all of it. And by the time I came out, I was a blockchain pastor. I was out there, you know, Mufti, a Muslim. So I was a blockchain Mufti, you know. And so it's because of that time and that effort I took, it's what made me very confident in evangelizing this space and putting my name out there for the cause of blockchain. So I'd like to encourage all of you, while you're doing your coin investments, please, education, at least spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day and push that.
My name is Michael Kiberunagenda, CEO of Keep Your Group and Bit2Big. First of all, I want to thank Ian because this is exactly what we need in the community. And as Sule just mentioned, also education part. So big thanks to you to actually come up with this and make it open. We just had 2 weeks ago the blockchain conference at East African International University of East Africa. And our aim has really been to grow the community here in Uganda. Myself, I spent most of my time in Switzerland, in Zug. I moved there like 5 years ago to actually get the best from the best. And as Ian said, hang around actually the guys who really matter. So the Ethereum founders, etc., etc. And I came back home, at least every few months I'm here to actually build the community here. So we have meetups like at the university every month, free of charge, where you come, you can learn and grow in different areas. We have done mining, we have done a bit trading, and especially during our conference, we fly in people from Switzerland, from Germany, to actually share more knowledge that you just go deeper into that. So I think I like the question or the comment there, our moderator, not moderator, but from the media actually mentioned, we need the community to learn more as much as possible, not only the coins to buy, because you can buy the coins, but you can lose them also very fast. Actually, what we do is cybersecurity and blockchain. So we just train the ethical hackers here in Uganda because we believe you have to understand security. Then finance is good. You know how to keep your fiat money, your normal money, but how do you do with crypto? So educate in that area. So for the radio station, etc., I think it's important for the media to come to people like Kwame, Sule, Ian, especially when he's in the country here. It takes, I don't know how many kilometers he flew, but definitely it was a flight, not just a car drive, etc. People actually come extra long way, but it needs a community to come and embrace them and then get as much as possible from them, because next, as you mentioned, is just gonna travel elsewhere. So with what I'm saying is education is key, and just buying the first coin you get is not really, it's not all about. And this decentralization movement, there's a lot of things happening. And to your question before, or to comment on that, I believe we have just started. And there are few people who really put in a lot to see something happening. And at this time, it's kind of like a silo in the one or the other way. But we're seeing more and more implementations happening, whereby actually it happens also in the background. So give it 2, 3, 5 years along the road, you're going to see amazing developments happening in different areas, not only in crypto, not only in medical records, etc. But why not put our water on the blockchain? And actually, when I have this bottle, I scan it, and I'm sure that it's actually proper water. We are actually tokenizing agricultural products here in Uganda to make sure that we can finally start shipping them at a higher quantity to Europe and other countries, but even to the local market. So a lot of things are happening, and I think this is needed way more often, but it takes both sides. Ian, who opens up something like this, the association that has opened also doors in different ways, but when there are communities, things happening, people to run there and educate themselves, because no one is fed by someone else's spoon, but by your own spoon.
Hope yeah, you can hear me. Let me hope, thanks for that submission. I think education is a key, and for me personally, I'm really, really excited where my country is going. And I didn't know that all along I've been following Ian, I didn't know he's a Ugandan. That makes me feel even more home. Like, I want to ask you, like a brother, you know, I've been following you for a while, and I'm looking at most of your breakthrough, where most of us have struggled to meet also breakthrough in the cryptocurrency, and we have tried, we are making a lot of losses, things like that. Yeah? A lot of one coin and sisters and brothers left and right and center. So, but basically, quoting from you, when you attended that cryptocurrency conference, like this one specifically, when you interviewed those icons of that conference, you found that something was common in all of them. It was ICO. So that made you give up the trading, which were, and you were like, let me focus on ICO. And now you are like an advisor on most of the project in ICOs. And you know, 2017, early 2018 has been a big market for ICOs. And 98% of all ICOs were like one coin as scams. People who put in ICO, most of them, they are crying. So just like the people who are in the bear market of the trade, the same way people in ICO that have been crying, apart from those few people. Now, my concern is because I've been studying the trade before the blockchain. We had the IPO, then blockchain came in, now we have ICOs. Now, I've been studying the trade where the regulators are trying to come into the crypto space, and the coming of the new kind of token called the security token, and bringing in the new breed of the public offering called STO. And I want to get your opinion on that. Where do you see the world of crypto space going with STOs when we move from ICOs, which were not regulated, and then we have STOs? Thank you.
Hello? Do you hear me? Okay. Very good question. Yes, I definitely do think the trend now is going to be STOs, security token offerings. For those who don't know, STOs are basically similar to IPOs and similar to an ICO, except you're getting actual equity. It's a security token, right? So basically you have equity shares. So I think this is a trend, especially with the way things have been progressing the last few months, and especially with the SEC and America. And I think in general, as a global movement, STOs is the next wave, and I think that's what will bring in larger investors, institutional capital, right? Wall Street's, the big banks, right? All that big money from people's mutual funds, 401ks, whatever funds, all those traditional investors, I think will feel more secure investing in STO as opposed to a typical ICO. So I do think that's the future. In terms of when that's going to happen, I don't think we have the infrastructure yet, right? We lack the exchanges, like the Binance, the KuCoins, the CoinPesas for STOs right now, right? There are projects that are trying to solve that, but they haven't really taken off yet. I know there's Open Finance, and I think even Nex is doing the same thing. But I think we're 1 year or more away before that really starts to pick up, right? But I think it is the future. Who's watched my ICO video? Okay, a few people here, right? So I had a video on YouTube about an hour long on ICOs. So I'm actually planning to make one for STOs, right? As a way, because I know that's where the future is going, all right? And I think this is something more people need more education on, myself as well, right? So I think it is the future. I just don't think we're there right now. I think probably 1 year away or more.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Osa Tukamshaba. I was listening to your biography, and the time you resigned, you left your job. Here I would say you resigned at the time where you had made it in life. So today I was sharing with a gentleman who is a teacher, earns $50 per month. And that is not one person. It's almost over half of a community that earns less than $100 per month. How do we have these people benefit if we are to them, oh, you go and resign or come and join the crypto world? Yeah. And looking at the very many scams, very many hypes, very many different things on the market, how do we have these people earning that much, less than $100, benefit from the crypto space and the blockchain space? Thank you very much.
Yeah, very good question. So I definitely don't recommend just blindly quitting your job, right? With me, I had to have a strategy, and I gave myself runway. So this was February 2017. I knew I had basically 11 months to try to figure this out. But not only that, I was willing to take a step back, to take 2 steps forward, right? So there's a very popular book called From Good to Great. And I feel most people get complacent and comfortable with good and aren't willing to take the risks to get to great. And those risks sometimes include taking a step backwards, right? So for me, I just wanted greatness so much that I was willing to lose it all, right? Because I thought about it very hard and I said, what's the worst that can happen, right? And I think, and you could say I'm very comfortable with discomfort, but that's what I said. I said, okay, I went through the worst case of anything that could happen. I said, okay, if I lose my job, I have no money. If I have no money, I can't pay my rent, my car, all that. I said, okay, my parents live 5 minutes away. I can go stay with them. I was like, I mean, it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's my family, right? And I said, actually, you know what? That can help me save even more money. Because my goal was to take the current money I was making and to replace that with my own income, right? So actually, at IBM, I was making a lot of money, right? But my goal was just to make six figures a year, over 100,000 a year. But if you hear the costs here are different, right? So let's say your monthly pay is $50 a month, $100 a month, and you're getting that from a job, right? Before quitting the job, right? Give yourself runway and a deadline. Is okay. Let me try to make $100 a month of my own outside of work, right? Whatever it takes for you to continue living your current lifestyle, right? But once you take it back, so if you're making $100 a month from your job and you're able to replace that from crypto, from something else, consulting, whatever, right? Now you can live on your own because you're still making the same money you had with your job, but now you have control of your time. Right? So for me, it wasn't about making $1 million at first. I mean, that was nice, but I had to take baby steps. And the first step isn't $1 million. The first step is whatever your costs of whatever your monthly expenses are, try to have enough for that and some change from outside of your job. Once you can do that, that gives you the confidence to leave your job. Right? So with me, right, with IBM, I was making over 100,000 a year. But I quit after two things happened. I had over 250,000 in crypto, right? And I know crypto goes up and down. And I said, okay, even if it goes down a lot to 100,000, I can survive off that for a year. I mean, I can just have to reduce my expenses. And I took steps to do that, right? So the first thing I did was I took my car back, right? So the lease was over. And it was a nice car, nice Mercedes, you know. I was like, you know what? I'd rather put this money into crypto. So the monthly payment I was making on the car, after I took it back, because the lease was over, right? I was like, you know what? I don't want to extend this because I have bigger goals I'm trying to go after. So after that, I would just use Uber everywhere. Right? Then the big move was moving out of my house. Right? It was a nice house, 4-bedroom house, in posh part of outside of DC. And I was like, you know what? This is a good house, but this rent can go towards other things. I wanted to reduce my expenses. So I did something more millennials are doing nowadays as well. I moved back home with my parents. Right? And I think a lot of people have what stops them from achieving success is their ego, right? And I know people who say, oh, I would never move back home with my parents. But I was like, what's more important, $1 million? To me, because my rent was over $2,600 a month. Very expensive house. And I was like, you know what? I'm successful making this much money, but I'm fine living in my parents' basement if it helps me save this money each month, right? But the good thing about it was I didn't want to stay in my parents' basement forever and ever, right? And I knew moving out and staying with them would motivate me to work even harder, right? So by September, everything was good, and I cut my lease in October. And now I've been living in a suitcase, traveling the world, right? And that's also one of the goals of what I did that. My goal after quitting my job was to travel and see the world and just kind of pick up the culture, right? Because my best subject in school was always social studies. And that comes from my dad giving me an atlas and books on geography and the world history. So I've always loved about learning different cultures. Even though I'm an engineer by trade, my best subject was social studies. I'm talking like I would always just ace the class, like it was my best subject. So, and to really realize that goal, I knew if I didn't have anything tying me down, I'd be more free. Right? That's why I took the car back, moved back home with my parents, saved up all that money, put it into crypto towards my goals. Then I was able to achieve those goals. So I hope that helps, answers your question. Yes, over here.
Yes, good evening. Deo is my name, and I want to appreciate Ian and especially Kwame for this opportunity. Yeah, of course, when you talk about the blockchain, it presents us with so many benefits that we look at. But from the time that we started hearing about cryptocurrency, basically, I have realized that there are so many more scams that have risen up compared to before the discussion of cryptocurrencies. So my main concern is how best, especially when someone listens to a testimony from probably Ian and several other people, you really see that there's potential in this industry. And right now as we speak, we may be seated here, but maybe someone out there is being scammed somewhere. So my question is, how best or how fast can we help really show our fellow brothers and sisters that this is the real deal? Because even when you look at the discussions that are taking place as far as this regulation is concerned, you find that at the end of the day, you find that the house is divided into two. You find that there is a majority on the other side of against the whole thing. And so basically, how fast can we help our people?
Very good question. So I'll quickly comment on that, then maybe you guys can also add to it. I think the best way to really get people to become believers in blockchain and crypto, for me, the way I view it is, I ask myself, what made me a believer? And I would say there were two things. Education, learning more about the space, right? And those two books I read, Digital Gold and The Age of Cryptocurrency. So if there's somebody out there you want them to believe, get them those two books, right? Whether you get them the physical book or you have a ebook version or whatever, right? Get them the book, get them education, right? Could also be videos from people like me or other people out there online, Andreas Antonopoulos. And he also has a great book called The Internet of Money, also a very good book. And then get them to meet people in real life at events like this, right? Because I feel like going to events like this makes it more human. Right, so if they have the education, the knowledge, and they meet real people who are just like them, people they trust, and people they think are credible, right? I think that's the first step, right? Then everything else can kind of fall in place once you start having groups like mastermind groups or peer groups, staying together, trying to help each other. I think that's really the best way to learn, right? So education, having those peer groups. Anything you guys want to add?
I don't own a single coin. So chase me out of the room. But what I want to support what you just said, and then because you can come up with more remarks. My take on I'm in the blockchain space. I'm not in the cryptocurrency space. If I'm going to be in a token, is the token I created or a fellow company who is with me in this medical thing, where we have created what we call a utility coin. You cannot actually trade it. But the reason why I have not invested in crypto is what you said, both of you guys have said, is education. Because I don't invest, and I'm very big in coffee. I own a lot of land in this country, etc. And only reason I've done that is this because I've been understanding the culture. As you said, what your favorite subject was? Social studies. Yeah, social studies, and I am educated in that. And you just have to understand what you're doing. Doesn't matter if it's coffee, cassava, etc. Crypto is the same thing. Because if not, then you're going to do mistakes, but you can at least reduce the mistakes. Because I've done that, my God. I didn't know how many types of bananas there were until I came to Uganda as a grown-up. I thought it was only one type. Same with, I would say, with crypto as well. Now, from when I heard about Bitcoin and see when I go into those exchanges today, there are thousands, at least hundreds of those different things. But you have to sacrifice, like I have to sacrifice in what I make a living out of, is that how can I reduce my personal costs? Of course, if you have kids, etc., that's a different story because they need food. You can't reduce costs on food or water. But get educated. And then you have to be very, very hungry. Because if you look at any businesses or people who are successful, look at their sacrifice, read biographies of other people. If you can, now I know books in Uganda is very expensive compared to the rest of the world. But really go into their heads, if it's Steve Jobs, or if it's Bill Gates, or if it's Warren Buffett, or if it's Ian, their success is they're hungry and are willing to cut down unnecessary expenses. It's as stupid as, do I really need to buy this night special? Or let me just buy one instead of two. So those 7,000 shillings, you can do more better with it. Like invest in crypto, but when you do that, get educated.
I'll just say something brief. You're right, the gentleman who asked the question. The scams are in abundance, and we have a responsibility to reverse that tide. And the way it is done, just to reiterate what was being said here, we as a community, we who have the privilege of knowing a little bit more and having been exposed to these things, we have to organize the industry. And how do we do so? The initiative that Ian has taken, for instance, by coming to Uganda, the initiative that yourselves have taken to coming here and participating, all those are the steps. And we need to continue doing so as a community, because it is only then that we can learn more, understand more, and then be able to explain to others more. So we need to grow this group that is genuinely making a contribution in the crypto and blockchain space. That is the only way we can reverse the tide with the scams, because you're absolutely right. They're in great abundance, and they're having many more meetings, than we are right here. Okay, so, and it's also and bigger. Thank you, thank you. And actually, many people do not know that they're in scams. So even as we reach out to liberate and help those who are there, it doesn't help by making them feel attacked. Okay, let us enlighten, like Sule was saying earlier. Let us be able to demonstrate to people why it is that what they are involved with is fake. Like Sule, he gave a series of examples, whether it's showing that the coin is on an exchange, whether it's listed on CoinMarketCap, etc. So we are the ones, as the community in Uganda, we are the ones who are going to help reverse this tide. Those guys have a head start, but I mean, at the end of the day, we will win. They will lose because these bubbles eventually burst. But we can't take that for granted. We still have work to do. Because if we don't do this in due time, like I said earlier, they can contaminate this opportunity that we have.
My issue has been already tackled, but my area of concern is there are so many guys, members, who are doing cryptocurrency, and they know more about blockchain out there. Now, how are we going to organize? Like today's meeting, we have not jotted down our names and contacts and what have you. How are we? And you said we are going to do this several times. So I think we know members out there who are in crypto and blockchain. There are so many, by the way, and Uganda is moving faster. So we need to organize such meetings in bigger numbers. So I don't know how we're gonna now communicate from this very meeting to the next one. So I don't know how we're gonna do it. Otherwise, everyone is yearning to know more. Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for coming. It's been a pleasure. I also want to give a special thank you to my Uncle Fred Magada, and Sister Vivian for coming and for all the support. It's a pleasure. First time seeing them in over 20 years. And then thank you, Uganda and Kampala. It's a pleasure. And thank you to our panelists here.
I need a nice girl.